So is this what we do?
Yeah.
You know how many strangers I haven't hugged? And the world's probably better for it. You know? When we put in our garden, this is cool. Do you want to
go to the basement? I haven't even looked at the weather lately.
Well, let me check.
Oh, I felt the sprinkle.
I know, hurry.
Oh, hey, it's Emily and Chris.
Here.
Oh, here.
Oh,
now.
That's a lot, sorry.
Hey, it's Emily with Hearty Sol.
You just sanitized your knees.
It's Emily with Hearty Sol. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are filming the third episode of Rumination in red chairs. I'm excited to be here at Chris's home on his red chairs this time, and we are going to be chit-chatting about a few things, all regards to parenting.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
This is fun.
This is great.
We won't have to edit much, I don't think, because we're gonna rip through some stuff.
Yeah.
Some people were asking me about labeling.
Yeah.
And we were talking, we were out in the garden, and when we plant seeds, unless you're super organized, it's hard to remember exactly, because sometimes you end with a half a row, or did I put 3 rows of this in? So what do we do in the garden?
We plant seeds.
And we label them, right?
And we
put a little, I don't know, some people use popsicle sticks. My girls have been into making these signs, it's kind of fun.
Yep, paint on the rocks.
Paint on the rocks, all that stuff to label it. But after short order, you know that that's a tomato plant. Now, you might still keep the label of the variety or whatever, but you know that it's sweet corn, or you know that it's cucumbers, or you know. So I've just been thinking about labels that we use with kids.
Yeah.
And whether or not, because I always get this question, are labels bad? Is it bad to label kids? And I don't know. What are your thoughts on? What do we hear? What are some labels we hear? My kid is
a picky eater.
Oh, picky eaters. But there's good ones too, right? Oh, my kid is so smart.
You're so good at that.
You're good at that.
You're so pretty.
We label beauty.
That drives me nuts.
Does that one drive you nuts? Why?
Oh.
You know my soapbox on that.
I have a soapbox, but it's in like a file from my college dissertation, women's studies.
Yeah.
We shouldn't start there.
We shouldn't. Okay. We'll ease into the deep end. We label kids as athletic, jocks, nerds. Oh, you're just not. I heard this one. The kid is like 5. I heard this one. He's just not good at math. Wow. Okay. Not too long ago, I talked to a college professor friend of mine, and she said generally labels are limiting. But I'm like, what about the good ones?
Yeah.
What about Johnny's so smart?
Right.
How could that be limiting?
So what happens when we label a kid as really smart? What happens when they fail?
Oh, yeah.
Or they don't do so well, or they're not smart, or they don't feel smart, or they don't get labeled smart the next day.
Yeah, or the next year in school.
Right.
I really worry about the kid that then starts to struggle. When it doesn't become so easy anymore.
Right.
And there's got to be this neural pathway that says, but wait a second, I'm smart. This should be easy for me. So what we see then in schools is kids that kind of come up against that academic struggle, that wall, they begin to back off. They stop.
Right.
Or they quit. Or they don't push. So at that first sign of struggle, they kind of
if I'm not smart.
yeah, if I'm not going to prove that this is easy and I'm smart, then I'm not going to try.
Keep going.
Yeah, I'm not going to try. And I'm not sure that's what we want for all of our kids. You know, I don't think we want to, I know in a house, I know really well, I want a kid that's going to keep going. What's the saying, when the going gets tough?
Right.
They're going to keep pushing through, keep I don't care about the outcome. Right, at the Love and Logic Institute, Dr. Charles Fay, he talks a lot about praise the strain, the effort,
Yeah.
not the gain.
Right.
Right. So
when a kid is vacuuming, when they're like 3,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When my little one is vacuuming and she's so proud of herself and she's vacuuming, but she misses like 90%, right?
yeah,
Do I go in and vacuum right away and show her, did you miss all of the
Right.
spot? You didn't do a very good job. Not when she's looking.
probably not. Right, right, because that develops this mindset in the child. Well, it's not good enough.
I'm never good enough.
So I might as well not
Try.
try.
Might as well not even start.
So I mean, if we're gonna label, I see this one a lot with pictures on Facebook. My sassy 3-year-old, or my challenging, my headstrong, and I don't know, I guess I don't want to overthink it too much, but maybe if the child never hears that, it's okay to talk adult to adult like that.
Right.
But my inclination is that they do hear it, you know.
Or see it.
Or see it sooner or later. Oh, you're so sassy. You know, I get this question a lot about eating, food, mealtime. Like, there's a lot of problems with mealtime from a lot of households. I know we struggled early with one of our children, and I just think if you want to develop a picky eater, you call a kid a picky eater.
Yeah.
They're gonna live up to that expectation and that label,
Yep.
right? So if you want a kid to be sassy, guess what? I think you start calling them sassy.
I would never call a kid stubborn. Because you know what?
Oh, right.
That's all they're gonna be.
Right.
And that's a really hard personality to live with.
That's true.
Especially if you're the one who created that label for that child.
Right. We see memes about that on Facebook. They're so like me. Now I know why my parents were so
Right.
mad, right? All the time. Yeah.
That's sad.
So I just think let's be done with labeling. Let's call them Jim and Emily
Yeah.
and Brianna and Jamie and whatever, and then then what do we do? Right? What do we do instead?
We just notice the things that they do.
Yeah, do.
Do.
Yeah, so we can notice, right? We can notice. We can focus on.
And
the
everybody
effort.
can have strengths and everybody's gonna have weaknesses, but it's not like we need to put a name on that.
So in the classroom, I got pretty good at saying things like, "I notice you've been writing for 20 minutes," and then letting it go.
Yeah.
And just noticing that. Or, "Hey, I noticed you got those first 3 problems right." And then I like to ask, "How did you do that?" Because I want their success to be determined by effort, not by just sheer luck. Now, sometimes it's okay to be lucky, I think. But I want to ask a child, how those first 3 are spot on. And then I ask, "How did you do that?" And a lot of kids will say, "What? I don't know." Right? Isn't that fun? And so then I like to give them just a short menu of options. Did you practice? Wow. Did you study? I don't know. Did you keep working even though it was difficult?
Yeah.
Right? Those are, I think, my top 3 that I use a lot. And all 3 of those go back to what? For me, it goes back.
Self-reflection.
Yeah, cause and effect. When I practice,
Yeah.
I'm successful. When I work hard, I'm successful. When I stick with it when it's difficult, I can muddle. It might not be glorious, but I can muddle through it and be proud of it when I'm done, right?
Right.
And I just think in our climate and culture right now, we need to, if we're gonna focus on labeling kids of anything, it's, boy, you work hard.
Yeah.
Boy, you stick with it. I noticed when it got hard, you took a deep breath and you kept working it. I got a kid inside that's been working on this drawing for at least the last 3 days. And it's mostly erase marks. But every morning she wakes up and she works on it a little bit, you know? And she has a mom that stopped in, did a drive-by parenting, I call it, at lunch. She's eating cereal, figuring things out, and you could hear this 10-year-old being like, right? And
Yep.
Mom did a drive-by and said, keep with it. I think, like that, Dr. Caravella, actually, she'll probably watch this, but she said, I think labels generally, the way we use them, limit. And I don't know any parent or teacher that wants to limit the potential of a young person.
Absolutely.
So really, it's all about just being mindful and aware. What are the words? Kind of like when we talked about empty praise.
Right.
Way to go, that's awesome, you rock, you're a superstar. Let's just be mindful of the words we use.
Yeah.
So you liked the phrase at the beginning, what was it again? Instead of, way to go, or
I noticed,
right? The I noticed routine.
Right.
Right, I noticed this.
And you know what, you say that enough in your home, just like everything else that we do, Love and Logic, and it starts to turn around on you. We've heard that from different
for
parents.
sure.
And, I had my 11-year-old come up to me and she's like, Mom, I noticed that you're really dirty from being in the garden. Do you need a shower? Should I start supper so that you can take a shower? And I'm like, really great observation. I would love that, actually.
And isn't it cool that kids can do that?
Yeah.
Kids are capable.
I don't care if it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Somebody offered to make supper.
Right.
I will take whatever that means.
You do nearly 100% of the cooking?
Yeah.
And I do as well. And if you served butter on saltines, I'd be like, because it's not about the product.
Right.
It's about it's full circle. It's
Right.
about the effort, right?
And it's the team, right? Like, we're hanging on to the team. We got to keep the team together.
Yeah. We help each other because we love each other.
Right.
Right. And sometimes kids will be like, I've been so busy today. But you'll see them kind of pick themselves up and do it. So I know it's easy to get frustrated when kids kind of roll their eyes, or they might even say like, oh, do I have to? And I like to tell kids, no, you don't have to. And that almost guarantees what?
Fine.
But they do.
Yeah.
Right, so I encourage parents, don't get too bummed out about, or don't focus. If they're moving forward and making progress, no matter how slow it is, right, they're doing it. They're picking themselves up to do it. Kids can be stressed out too.
Oh, yeah.
Kids can be stressed out.
And this time, I think, stresses an entire household and family out.
Yeah.
I feel like, parents are trying to figure out job situations, so parents are busy mentally, physically. Kids are trying to figure out what the adults are doing in their lives.
Oh, they take cues from us, don't they?
And it's like, should we be stressed out? We don't know what's going on with school yet.
Right.
Everybody's a little stressed out. So I think that the more we can, hey, for instance, we had somebody in our house didn't want to do the dishwasher. I hate the dishwasher job. That's not my job. I want to switch jobs. And I'm like, you know what? No biggie. I got it tonight. And I just did it.
Yeah.
And I didn't crash the glasses, and I didn't slam the silverware in the drawer. I just did it. And she just was like, but
and that's okay.
It's totally great. Because,
now, if there's a pattern of that,
right,
you have the skills to be like, sweetheart, I don't want to fight with you about doing the dishes, but that was the energy I had to clean up the dog poop in the backyard,
right?
Or whatever. Right? So there can be a little exchange there. And that's what I like about Love and Logic, is it's like a menu. It's not if this, then this. And for certain personalities, some techniques are work better than others. So hey,
sanitize.
Ruminations on red chairs are gone. We've had some sprinkles, so we like parenting, right?
Woohoo!
Adjust on the fly. Check 1, 2. Check. Oh, I've told.
That joke was last time.
That was last time. I need a new joke. Oh gosh. We were talking about labeling kids. Probably got a little irritating to listen to, but I just think it's important to be mindful about what we say and how we say it, right? And
who we're saying it to.
And if we don't want our kids to live up to, or down to, I guess we could say, those expectations of stubborn, strong-willed, the one I hear a lot lately is sassy, or wild, my wild child, my wild 2-year-old. Well, that sticks with a kid.
Right.
You know,
and 2-year-olds are learning. They're figuring out life. They're wild.
They're wild.
Just like every other kid.
So just call them 2.
Yeah.
Right, and not attach that label to it. And then we also talked about, let's just summarize, right? So we can notice kids, right? We can notice the strain, not necessarily the gain.
Yeah.
You were talking about the vacuuming.
Yeah.
Right? And of a 3-year-old who's in it, right? If you want a kid to not be in it, to be part of the team, criticize their work when they're young.
Right.
Oh, that's not good enough. Or fix it in front of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Just swallow.
That's a good way to get a kid to be like, never gonna be good enough for her.
Right. And then what we find is kids that don't try. Right? If we're gonna label a kid a trier.
Yeah.
A kid who puts in effort. I want an athlete as a coach, or I want a student or my own children that when it gets difficult, they don't be like, oh,
yeah,
forget it.
So I think it's labeling, and it's also teaching coping skills. I'm big on coping skills.
Yeah.
You know, like if there's a better time in our history right now, we need more coping skills.
Yeah.
How do you cope with change? How do you cope with the fact that you didn't hit that ball right away, or even the second time?
Right.
Maybe
or the
not even
300th
the third.
time.
Yeah.
Right. But you stuck with it. So we can ask kids. I noticed that those first. I'm going back to the classroom because I've been thinking about school a lot lately. I noticed those first 5 problems were a struggle, and then the next 3 you just nailed. And I like to ask the kid, how did you do that? Right, so I'm reviewing a little bit.
Yeah.
And because I want the child to think about that they had a say. They had the skill to be successivel.
It was their decision.
It was their effort. And they might say what?
Oh.
Right. I love it. They don't even spell it.
Right.
It's not even a word, but we all know what it means. So I give them like 2 or 3 options. If I have a good relationship with that kid, I might say, did you just get lucky? So I guess my whole point in noticing and using that, and maybe we could put up, I have a graphic, we can put up some questions to ask kids. I want them to think cause and effect. When I do this happens and it feels good.
Yeah.
When I do this happens and it's yucky.
Right.
Right.
That was good.
Thanks. What are we gonna do with school this fall?
I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I know our kids are anxious to get back. They're anxious to see their friends, but I just wonder how that's gonna work. I give a lot of credit to the people who are now just trying to figure that out.
There's got to be so many questions. And then we're waiting on data. And we're waiting on, we're in La Crosse County in Wisconsin, and things are just starting to improve. But we were a hot spot for a while.
Yeah.
We went from under 100 to over 500 cases in what seemed like a blink of an eye.
Wow.
So, and that's not, I'm not stirring up, that's just, the data's the data. But
facts are facts, Jack.
What did you say about 4-year-olds and snot and masks?
The requirement of 4-year-olds wearing masks to
Yeah.
school all day. What about the drinking fountains?
Closed.
What about water jugs?
I think
Phoenix boxes.
Yeah,
pencils.
personalized stuff. A lot of personalized stuff.
Will we have to buy school supplies, or only half?
Right.
More Kleenexes? Do we send toilet paper?
Here's my couple things. Kids, I mentioned this earlier, they'll live up to or down to the expectations. So we can set limits with love and empathy, but firm, right?
Yeah.
A kid can wear a mask. I just believe they can. I think kids can, we expect them to sit a long time. That's not in their nature.
Yeah. Right.
I think they can wear a mask. Is it going to be easy? Is this something they're going to want to practice and build up to?
Yeah.
I think most certainly.
And I mean, practicing at home way before we even get to school, not a bad idea.
Yeah, small little increments, right? And we do that with parenting. I remember practicing going to a restaurant.
Yep.
At 3.
Yeah.
And pointing or circling on the kids' menu their own food.
Right.
You know, it can be easy to get negative. But there are a lot of silver linings. I mean, just that focus on family. You know, the other thing, going back to school, we're thinking outside the box here. Because we have to.
Yeah.
We're having to think about alternative scheduling, right? Like maybe a morning group and an afternoon group. I know some schools in other countries that they have 3 groups. Early morning, midday, and night school, starting in middle school. And that would fit a lot of people's work schedules really, really well.
Right.
Well, what about sports?
We don't have sports anymore.
Well, but maybe we plug in a schedule and it's diverse and it's fluid.
Yeah.
And we try to figure out. But I just think a lot of people I just want to get back to normal. And I get that.
We're not going back to normal.
I'm not sure that our normal was working for us.
Right.
And that sounds maybe a little controversial for some people, but I'm not sure that our normal was working.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I've lived in other countries where the schedule is way different. The work week, the work day, the school week looks way different than here. And this was 20 years ago. And I tell you what, there was built-in family time intentionally. Lot less lower risk of heart disease,
childhood obesity,
cancers, all sorts of things. I mean, I lived in Spain, and when I was there,
20 years ago?
20 years.
What were you, 10?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, probably more than 20. And when I lived there, I had lived with a family, and she was 76 years old. Her mother was 112, still alive. And they had never heard of anybody they knew ever had cancer. And I had cancer when I was a senior in high school, so I was explaining that to her.
I don't know about that.
And she's like, oh, I've never known anybody with cancer before. But the woman smokes and drinks on a regular basis with her friends in a social existence every night, has tea with her 112-year-old mother every day during siesta. So in Barcelona, you go to school from 8 in the morning until about 1. Then you have siesta, which means if you're in the city, you take your briefcase and your suit down to the beach, and you sit in the beach down to your Speedo, and you just digress. You eat, you have tea, you're probably maybe with friends. A lot of people weren't.
Yeah.
They were just, I would say, meditating or just being there by themselves.
Unplugging.
Yeah. And then at about 4 o'clock, school would resume. Work would resume.
Yeah.
And you go back until about 6 o'clock. Dinner happened about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And then you go out with your friends from about 10 until 12. Every day. Not just on the weekends, not Friday nights, every day. And then you'd go to sleep about midnight or 1, sometimes 2, and then you'd start the day back again. But Spain time, when us United States students were showing up at 8 a.m., the rest of Spain kids were there at like 9:30 or 10.
Yeah, you're right.
It was a totally different culture.
Yeah.
But like there was so much less illness, so much less stress.
Yeah, stress is
it leads
negative
to all
stress.
of that.
Yeah, negative stress. We can talk about positive stressors too, like we call it eustress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, but you know, the stress to finish the race, or you know, whatever, the stress to there's some positive stressors
Absolutely.
too, but oftentimes we do think of stress as being negative. I'll have to tell you then, we didn't talk about this in advance. In fact, do we ever script anything?
Do you see the cue cards back there?
No, right. The chickens. We've been in this kind of natural routine in our house since March. When the kids were doing online learning, our school district started within 10 days of being at home. So we got right into it.
Yeah.
And the girls just found out that, if technology worked, we're in the country, so sometimes there'd be reload after reload and stuff like that. But, they were done with school by lunch.
Yeah.
And we'd eat lunch, and it was casual. A lot of times we'd watch an episode of MacGyver or something to just kind of chill, or we'd go outside. But I love this siesta thing, and naturally I've slipped into it. Just the other day I had a midday meeting, and I wasn't able to eat lunch, kick my feet up, and close my eyes for 15 minutes. It's like it's 15. It's never more than 20. It's right in that 15 to 20. I'll close my eyes. A lot of times I doze off, and I kind of start myself awake, and I'll look, and I'll be like 17 minutes.
Right.
And it's like this reset button.
And the day is brighter.
And the day, I'm so serious. Have a glass of water and be like, all right, what are we doing? A lot of it's been outside work, but there has to be something about that midday break to recharge, and the research is quite clear actually when you read taking a little cat nap. But our culture is, if you take a nap, you're weak.
Yeah.
If you wear a mask, you're weak.
Go,
right.
drive,
right.
money, jobs, finances. We need more things.
Stuff, yeah.
That's how we live.
I love the fact that I forgot my PIN number.
Yeah.
I wasn't using it.
Yeah.
I filled up for the second time. Now Jamie's been working at the hospital.
Yeah.
But I filled up the car for the second time since March 13th.
Isn't that funny?
It's great. I put more gas through the boat.
There you go.
I know. So, I don't know. I think that there's silver linings in almost everything. If you're committed to looking for them,
yeah.
right? You find what you seek.
Right.
And if we look for some silver linings, I mean, have there been some concrete milestones that a lot of kids have missed out on? Yeah, and that stinks. It stinks that graduation's not like graduation.
Right.
But and I don't want to minimize that at all. That stinks. That's a bummer. That's something that we've done historically forever.
Right.
You walk across the stage, you get the diploma. It's a rite of passage. Playing summer ball, but something will come out of this.
Yeah.
Do you have faith in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I just have faith that
if nothing else, it'll be a really good story to tell somebody.
It'll be a great story to tell. You always say that. I love that. But I just think that we can turn inward and we have nothing else to do. Let's focus on being better parents.
Right.
And I'm in that. I know that you include yourself in that same category. I need to improve. I do this stuff to keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm still unlearning negative behaviors as far as working with kids. And I've been doing Love and Logic for 20 years, 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
When you were in Spain.
When I was in Barcelona.
Any other things you want to talk about?
I think too, like when it comes to going back to school, let's look. I mean, there's other places that have been doing really well. That our entire planet is dealing with the same thing. Like, how do we get kids back to school safely?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we go back to work safely? Let's look at Denmark and Finland and Sweden, some of the places that we know do things well and have good data on their situation.
And they've established practices that seem to be working.
Right.
Not all of them. I'm sure they've thrown some things out. They're like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And going back, let's bring that back to parenting.
Right.
It's hard. It's hard to ask a parent, especially when they're not ready, to come to a class.
Oh yeah.
And attend a class, because I'm doing what works. And if you were to sprinkle truth serum all over that situation, they want help. People want to be better. People don't want to yell at kids, right? But isn't it common?
Oh yeah.
It's not necessary. We know best practices, and yelling at kids isn't one of them, right? So we can learn. I guess what I'm saying is we don't have to recreate the wheel. Talking about coronavirus,
Yeah.
we don't have to recreate the wheel on solid parenting practices. And if it isn't love and logic, there's other great stuff out there. But
Right.
it's all, a lot of it's all based on the same research and philosophy. So, myself doing this. I don't know what this is. By the way, flat-leaf parsley loves to face east, I found. Comes back every year. Yeah. A little dirt on that one.
Ate a bug.
Fresh in my breath. Those raspberries over there,
Oh wow.
those started as one shovelful from a lady over in Minnesota in Nodine that said her great-grandpa brought it over in 1900 something from Norway.
What?
There's a parenting analogy here,
Oh, I'm sure.
right? They start small and then they grow. Even here, like. How to do a video. Eat while you're doing it. Was right in the memo.
Yeah.
Look at some of those honkers.
Thanks so much for joining us this week. Chris and I really enjoy Rumination in Red Chairs. We hope you feel the same. If you do, feel free to like and subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode of Rumination in Red Chairs. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great week.